Sports photography, an ever-growing field of photos, video, and personality. But how do you stand out? Today, we're going to be going over the best basic settings in your camera so you have a groundwork to start with. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, my name is Kazan, and I just want to make a basic video about your settings in your camera for sports photography. I'm not some pro, but I have been doing it for a little bit now, and I wanted to share some things that people could take away from this video that maybe I never learned when I was looking on YouTube a couple years ago. Some of them are very simple, but when you hear it from someone else, you might let it click in your head and it might make sense to you furthermore. So my first setting that I have today is going to be always shooting in manual. My camera is the Sony A7 IV, which will just be an M on the dial. But with the manual mode, you have full reign on what you shoot with. You can change the color, the focus type, you can change the ISO and the shutter speed to whatever you like, and you are in control of what your camera produces. When you're on auto mode, all of that's fine for instant action maybe. You are up to the mercy of what the camera decides. You do not get to pick and choose what you want or fine tune the picture quality or whatever. And sometimes it messes up. Sometimes it compensates for one special thing and then the rest of either the lighting or ISO, the gain is just completely out of whack. And so staying in manual, you're not staying away from gain, but you can help your pictures be what you truly want it to be. Because when you set the settings, you know what you want and the camera has to follow what you are putting in. My second point for today is using the smallest ISO as possible. This is just because when you think of ISO, a general rule is it's fake light. It's really not there, but it's adding through the sensor of the camera. And what I like to think about is using as much natural light as possible. So let's just say I was in a basketball gym in a school or something, and the light is okay, but it's not great. I want to use as much of that light as possible and then add a little bit more with ISO, but not too much where the noise and gain show and tons of pixelation can be seen in the corners or even the main subject. One thing I like to do is either using a prime lens where you can have the lowest aperture f-stop. On my camera, it is a 1.8. It's a 15 millimeter, which is a really solid camera because you don't want to be too close to the action where you can only see their face, or too far away and get too much of the basketball arena or wherever you are at. So 50 is a really good medium for me. In sports photography, also you would like to have a fast shutter speed, but in order to help provide more light, you want to decrease the speed a tiny bit. You don't always need the fastest thing because majority of them are not going to be super blurry unless they're running full speed, maybe at like a football game or something. But decreasing it a tiny bit where it's still getting a fast image, you can still lighten up the room because it's opening that sensor just a little bit more so it can enter more light in. And you can even look at your screen on the back of your camera to really see what the light is going to be like with that shot. Maybe if you had a DSLR, it might be different, but for mirrorless, which is kind of the general camera for today, it's a good rule to use. For my third point, I'm going to say shoot in RAW. Cameras have different levels of RAW. RAW meaning that it is the highest quality picture your camera can take because it's sending more information to the sensor and then to the SD card. So when you edit it, you have full reign of the colors and whatever you use with it. Shooting in RAW also unlocks an ability in Lightroom. It's called the denoise option. And honestly, it really helps a lot. I do not really post any pictures without denoise anymore. When I was a beginner, I didn't really know what it was about, and it's really changed in the past couple months because of the advanced use of AI. And that's like the one positive point of AI. I'm not really the biggest supporter, but with pictures and Lightroom kind of just automatically uses it for you if you select this, but only with RAW and then certain file types, which I might put on the screen onto the right. But yeah. Bruh. One of my next tips is talking about white balance when taking pictures. Now, white balance might sound weird. Like when you first hear it like a beginner, white balance to me only sounded about white and about light, if it was too dark or not. But white balance is actually the coloring, and being technical, it's like the Kelvin of the color, which you can, if you really look at the scales, it's either blue or cold, orange/red for warm. And what I like to do is never go to the extreme on any of the sides. Now, if you look with our eyes, everything is very natural and nothing is too warm or too hot unless in you're like a dusty area or like the Arctic or something like that. So what you want to do is, if you want to make your colors warmer or hotter, barely go on the other side of 0 or in the middle of that scale. This just ensures that if you're scrolling through pictures and then you see yours and it's bam, it's really warm, it's not taking people aback and looking a little bit fake actually. If you over edit your picture, the quality might not be as good because people might think it's cheesy or not being very serious. If you look at professional pictures, although there's editing maybe after, there's not too much where you can see, wow, that's really fake. Some people might increase the saturation or the vibrance or something like that, but the color, the blue and the oranges, it can really throw off your image if you go too much on either side. So for my final point, I'm gonna be talking about using the slower frames per second on your camera shutter while taking pictures. And this is not talking about video for frames per second. This is talking about how fast your camera can continuously take pictures over and over again. Some cameras can do 5, 10, 15. It really just depends on the price point of the camera and what you have. If you take really fast pictures, you might get the moment that you're looking for, but you're gonna have to sift through, I don't know, 3 times as much pictures as you usually would. And that's gonna take way longer, and you're not gonna push out any product to people you wanna try to get really fast, like put on social media or send it to a professor that you're taking pictures for. Just, it's examples. But like the other day, I wanted to make sure I get pictures out to a league director of sports near where I live. And I'm glad I didn't take all these pictures, otherwise it would take forever to offload it from the SD card, edit, and then send it through. I could pick it out from, I think it was only about 250 pictures during a sporting event, which is actually kind of low. I could have done way more, but that day I decided not to. The lower speeds can just really help with lowering your workflow time. Really, if your workflow is offloading off the SD card onto your computer or phone, it's gonna take less time for all those pictures to get on. And especially if you're using the RAW file type, the file is already gonna be really big with RAW. So you don't want, I don't know, 1,000 pictures with those, because that's just gonna be way too much for your file system. And it might be too much for either your computer that you already have a lot of files on or your phone.